in Greater Akron. We're not afraid of a little work. We set our sights high, and we know that success doesn't come overnight. When building towards success, it's easy to focus on the flashy parts. The day-to-day progress, the stats, the final plans. But every good builder knows that the secret to a strong future lies a little deeper. It's in the foundation. In Greater Akron, we nurture and invest in what makes us who we are. We know that strong foundations happen when people, strategy, and investments come together. When small victories are gathered along a path set by a shared vision, a commitment to make tomorrow better. Our foundation is strong, and we've already started to see that our hard work is paying off. We've seen it in the way the region and its leaders rallied around those who needed it most. We watched the transformation of our key assets right before our eyes. And we've seen the benefits of our collaborative approach, driving impact and catalyzing new opportunities to make this region greater. A strong foundation is hard to ignore. In a world filled with distractions, Greater Akron gives off the steady drumbeat of progress, of collaboration, of vision. Others have come to recognize it. They want to be a part of it, to invest in it, to grow with it. But our strong foundation is only the beginning. In Greater Akron, we keep looking ahead, thinking about what's next. We are inspired by the possibilities and the next wave of innovations, investments, and opportunities that will shape our next chapter. We are committed to ensuring that our region is one where the promise of opportunity is kept. Investments in people, in growth, in innovation, in the core of our region. That's what will take us forward. And the good news? We're already well on our way. The task ahead of us is to stay focused, to remain steadfast in our vision and in our commitment to do this together. At the end of the day, we all have a responsibility to do our part so that others can build upon our work in the years to come. We will do this by building on what we have, because we are strong, we are connected, we are growing. We are Greater Akron. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Greater Akron Chamber President and CEO, Steve Millard.
All right, everybody, time to get going here. I got a commitment to get you out of here at a certain time tonight. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Greater Akron Chamber Annual Meeting. Thank you for taking the time and making the investment to be here with us tonight. We've got a great program in store for you. We're going to be honoring Rick Fedorovich as this year's H. Peterberg Economic Development Leadership Award recipient. And we'll have an opportunity to hear from John Clifton, CEO of Gallup, about workforce trends and the important role that leaders and managers play in workplace culture, well-being, and overall productivity. As you may know or are just realizing, we aren't serving a full dinner tonight. So instead, you're going to find a variety of plated appetizers at your tables. Please use this as your cue to start enjoying and continue to do so throughout the program. Like many of you, I spent a lot of nights out, and we wanted to spend a little bit more time on our content and get you back to your families and your evening a lot earlier. It's a new format for us, and we're so appreciative of the staff at the JS Knight Center who have worked with us to try something new. We appreciate you and the work you do for all of us at our community gatherings. Can I hear a round of applause for the staff at the center here? It's so great to see so many of you here. We've got an incredible business community in Greater Akron, and the last several years have only emphasized that fact. The leadership, engagement, support, and connectedness that we share in our region are characteristics that make us truly unique. I'm excited to be with all of you tonight and have an opportunity to share and celebrate some of the successes and ideas about both our work ahead and some of the issues that we face. I hope that at the end of the next 70 or so minutes, you'll share the pride in our accomplishments, you'll be optimistic about the work to be done, and you'll leave with several takeaways from our keynote on the very important topic of workforce. I hope during the reception earlier you had a good chance to connect with some people that you know and some people you may not have known before. We'll keep the bar open for about 30 minutes after our program tonight to give you a chance to catch up with an additional person or two before you head out for the evening. So if you'd like to connect with us on social media throughout the event, we've created this hashtag and Twitter handle so you can share your thoughts and perspective as we go along this evening. So your choice to invest in our work or show up as a part of our efforts is really meaningful to us. We can't do the work of the business community without your support. Tonight's event's no different. We have a large number of sponsors for this evening's event. In particular, I'd like to especially recognize the presenting sponsors to this evening. Beyond your financial support, you bring perspective and leadership to our work. As such, I'd like to recognize Browse McDowell, which has lent consistent support and leadership to the work of the Chamber over many years. The City of Akron and the County of Summit, who together have been key partners in our Elevate Greater Akron work, working to support vibrancy in our region through joint efforts and effective collaboration to increase the attractiveness for growth and investment in our region. County Executive Shapiro, Mayor Horrigan, thank you for your work and your team's work on behalf of our community every day. Huntington Bank for its leadership in driving capital and resources in the region, its focus on downtown development, and its specific focus on inclusion and entrepreneurs. And Colleague Companies for its investment in our region and a commitment to the continued evolution and success of a legacy event in Akron, now known as the Colleague Companies Championship. SummaCare for its long-term partnership with us and our continued work together to bring world-class health benefit options to even the smallest of our member businesses. I'd also like to thank our premier sponsors this evening, Akron Children's Hospital, Cap Trust, Energy Harbor, the family of H. Peterberg, First Energy, Goodyear, KeyBank, Retzel, State and Federal Communications, and Team Neo. Also, thank you to Pritt Entertainment Group for being our video sponsor this year, for helping to showcase the region our opening video, and for telling the story of this year's H. Peterberg Economic Development Leadership Award recipient, Rick Fedorovich. Can I have a round of applause for all those sponsors, please? I also want to thank those who sponsored tables to support tonight's event. Your generosity, engagement, and leadership are key to the Chamber's ongoing success, and we're honored to have you all with us this evening. Thank you for your support and your commitment to our work. So as I indicated, the broad support of the elected and appointed officials in our region is critical to our work here, at home, in Columbus, and in Washington, D.C. We appreciate the work each of you do in support of Greater Akron. Will any elected officials with us this evening please stand to be recognized? I know there's a few of you out there. Maybe they're still at the bar. I don't know. All right, give them a round of applause. So as you're all doing in your business on a day-to-day basis, the Chamber is constantly thinking about what's next for our region and about ways we can adapt our work to meet your needs as business leaders. Taking the things we do well and improving on them over time is one of the ways we create opportunity for our businesses in the region. In the vein of evolution and change, many of you know that Colleague Companies is the new title sponsor of the PGA Tour Champions event at Firestone Country Club, now known as the Colleague Companies Championship. The tournament represents a critical economic development effort in our region, garnering national attention, driving investment to Greater Akron, and providing a significant injection of support for local charities. From investment at the University of Akron in InfoSystem Stadium to a number of new business ventures like Colleague Racing, to his recent decision to play a very big part in continuing to drive the success of our annual PGA Tour Champions event, as I said, now known as the Colleague Companies Championship. I'll try to get that name out there as many times as I can. Matt has chosen to invest in our region. We thought we'd give him an opportunity tonight to share a thought or two with you about why he continues to choose to invest here in this community, and a little bit more about what you can expect this summer at the debut of the Colleague Companies Championship. Please welcome Matt Colleague, Executive Chairman of Colleague Companies.
I can't even believe it. Like, they asked me if I would talk to the chamber in their annual meeting, and I thought it would be like 30 people. Like, I had a meeting in my boardroom today of like 7 people, and so now there's 800 people here, and so appreciate you guys. There's nobody, I promise, and I actually talk to LeBron James about this all the time, there's nobody that loves the city of Akron and what we do more than me. And and we do a lot for the city, and we're involved. As a lot of you know, I played football at the University of Akron, so I was born in Columbus, grew up in Cincinnati. What are we cheering for? And so went to high school in Chicago, and then came to the University of Akron on a football scholarship. So I played quarterback at the University of Akron. Met my wife, who was a cheerleader at Akron. She's from Copley, so give it up for Lisa. And so we've made this our home. I started a business, as most of you know. I started a business in 2005 out of my basement. Lived in Stowe, Ohio, and started a company called Leaf Filter, which we do gutter screens. It's a surgical grade stainless steel screen that keeps all the debris and everything out of your gutters. So it's 1-800-29, whatever. So, but have grown that business, and so that's what I love about this event, the chamber, and I'm all about business. Grew that company from a small little startup company out of my basement in 2005 to now, I don't know, I have over 200 offices in the US and Canada, and we're the largest home improvement company that's ever been, and we'll do $1.8 billion in business this year. So the reason I say that is because I'm super proud of Akron and the chamber and everything we do in business and supporting all businesses in Northeast Ohio and in Akron. But and you saw my NASCAR back there. And our NASCAR team, we run 3 cars in the Xfinity Series and 2 cars in the Cup Series. So that's why we have that. But really here tonight to talk about the Collie Company's championship, which is at Firestone Country Club, which is coming up here in July. And it is a really big deal, as you guys know, for Akron and Northeast Ohio and what we do. So Don Pageant and their group has done an amazing job. We've been golfing or having a tournament, a PGA tournament here for 70 years. And the reason we were attracted to, and we're the title sponsor now, is for the charitable benefits to having that golf outing. So we're the title sponsor now. It's July 12th through the 16th. We hope everybody supports. But the economic value and just the value that it brings to Northeast Ohio and Akron is giant, and that's why we do it. Like I said, I'm all about the University of Akron. I'm all about Akron. I'm all about Firestone and the PGA, and that's what we're doing. So that's why we're the title sponsor tonight. I hope everybody gets behind this event, and everybody have fun tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for sharing your insights and your continued investment in and passion for our community. It's going to be an incredible event. The lineup for the event is amazing. If you haven't been out, get out this year. They've really reinvented it, and it's really a family-friendly opportunity to sort of experience great golfers and experience a great time with your family and friends, et cetera. So given this is technically a meeting of our members, I'd like to segue for a moment to conduct some brief membership business. For that, I'd like to introduce Hallie Jones-Capers, president of Hallie's Engineering and Design. Hallie is a member of the Chamber's nominating committee and will report on its work and lead our member meeting. Please welcome Hallie Jones-Capers.
Thank you, Steve, and good evening. As Steve indicated, as part of our annual meeting each year, we always have a little business to do on behalf of our members. This year, we have one item of business for the members to consider this evening, which includes the nomination of board members for approval. The nominating committee is appointed by the chair of the organization and convenes to attend to the annual process of considering qualified persons for nomination to the members for election to the board. Before presenting that slate, we would like to take a moment to recognize the current members of the board of the Greater Akron Chamber. The Greater Akron Chamber relies on the engagement of its board leaders to ensure we are meeting the needs of our members effectively, carrying out our mission within the region. We appreciate the investment of time and the contribution of skills and perspective each of these members have brought to the organization and to our work. Several members of the board are completing their term of service on the board this evening. Those individuals are displayed on the slide behind me. On behalf of the members and the board, we appreciate your leadership and support for the work of the organization. Board members serve 3-year terms on the board of directors. The nominating committee recommends election of these members to new or renewal elected terms through March 2026 on the board of directors. The nominating committee also recommends the acceptance of these Chair's Circle investor appointments to the board of directors and the confirmation of these Chair's Circle appointments to the board that have been made since our last annual meeting. Finally, GAC regulations provide for ex officio members of the board to represent certain organizations for whom a voice on the GAC board is desired. These members are being asked to accept these ex officio representatives for 2023-2024. These are the nominating committee recommendations. As such, the nominating committee hereby moves for the election of these individuals to the board of directors of the Greater Akron Chamber. As this nomination comes from the committee, there is no need for a second. Will the members of the Greater Akron Chamber in attendance tonight and in support of their election please signify by saying aye? Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. This concludes our business. Thank you. And thank you, Steve.
That round was both for you, Hallie, and also the members, so there we go. That's good. Before we get to our award recognition and our keynote speaker this evening, we thought that given this is the annual meeting of our members, we'd provide a very brief update of some of the work accomplished over the last year and a look ahead at a few areas of focus over the next. Tia Ramlow is owner and president of Great Work Employment and also serves as chair of the Greater Akron Chamber Board of Directors. Over the last 18 months or so, Tia has added the responsibility of leading our board and guiding the work of our team to her already busy schedule. Tia, we appreciate your service and leadership on behalf of the business community, and I invite you to make a few comments about our work. Tia Ramlow.
Hey everyone, what a great crowd. I'm super excited to be here. First and foremost, I think it's imperative to say thank you to everyone in the room tonight. Your attendance is confirmation that we have strong support and commitment from the business community that growing and developing our region is a priority. And as your membership is voluntary, please know that 100% of our effort is about delivering for you. The Chamber team is dedicated to providing programs, products, and services that align with your needs. Our most important deliverable is to make it easy as possible to help companies, both large and small, invest and grow in our region. I imagine then, it begs the question, what are we doing? What are you supporting? And how are we making a difference? So over the past year, the Chamber and our Elevate Greater Akron partners visited more than 300 companies in Greater Akron. These visits were done to ensure our existing companies have the resources and support to thrive here. 38% of those visits were with women and minority-owned businesses. And 90% of those visits created follow-up referrals, which so far have led to 7 investment projects. In 2022, we saw $579 million in investment in Greater Akron, driving almost 4,800 newer retained jobs representing $152 million in payroll. But it's not just about traction and retention projects. When the city of Akron decided to release another $1 million in pandemic-related relief for small businesses, they asked the Chamber to ensure our local employers who were severely impacted by COVID were helped. The Chamber coordinated the outreach, application, selection, and distribution of 100 additional COVID relief grants to help save jobs in our city. To provide resources to our small businesses, we launched the Greater Akron Business Resource Navigator. Built in partnership with Bounce, the Urban League, the City of Akron, County of Summit, Downtown Akron Partnership, and many others, this website consolidates and summarized all the resources provided by over 60 support organizations that exist right here in our community to help businesses start up and grow. We want it to be easy to do business in our region, and this website is the conduit to make our resources more available. As the voice of business in our region, we are advocating with our lawmakers to make positive changes. For example, the Chamber proposed language to state Senators Sykes and Shearing, leading to their introduction of Senate Bill 105. We worked to gain the support of 83 other state legislators, and this bill became law in 2022. This new law creates top-down reciprocity for state certification for minority, women, veteran, and edge-owned companies. One certification is now acceptable regardless of the jurisdiction in our state. And we've also worked to streamline the application process and reduce the required paperwork for the certification by over 50%. The Chamber took on this work because you, all of our members, you said it was a huge barrier and it had to be fixed. Bringing value to our members is most important. With the growth of our multiple employer health benefit program, we are giving small businesses affordable benefit programs to help attract and retain talent. Our healthcare MIWA with SummaCare has grown 51% since December of 2021. Over 1,000 members now offer these cost-effective benefits. In addition, our multiple employer 401k program, which helps small business access and navigate what can be a really cumbersome perk, has seen its total assets increase over 130% year over year. So, of course, workforce continues to be at the top of our list as a critical issue for all members. And as such, in 2022, the Chamber and Connexus NEO formally aligned its staff and operations to better serve employers, remove workforce barriers, offer employment opportunities, and drive more solutions. To do this work, Connexus received a $1 million grant from the Department of Labor to drive manufacturing apprenticeships. In addition, the state of Ohio gave $250,000 to support manufacturing, healthcare, and IT employer initiatives, with another $100,000 to connect both current workers and our youth to uniquely skilled, well-paying jobs in the polymer industry. So why specifically polymers? Well, the Chamber is strategically emphasizing the polymer industry as a critical area for growth and investment in our region. Our legacy in rubber and plastics around innovation and sustainability is world-renowned. We do not have to start from scratch here. We have over 40 companies and industry stakeholders who are actively participating in advancing our efforts in this sector through our Polymer Industry Council, which is made up of a team of polymer company, university, and economic development leaders. They are leading this work to bring new advanced polymer products and market and reestablishing critical supply chain capacity in America. Greater Akron also took a team to the world's largest plastics show in Dusseldorf, Germany, last October. We met with leaders from over 60 companies, resulting in more than 10 promising leads for investment in our region. Since then, we've hosted a follow-up company visit to Akron, and we may have an attraction decision in the next 30 days for here. So why are we sharing this Dusseldorf experience? To underline that investment and growth in polymers is a major opportunity for revitalization in Greater Akron. It is a fact that Akron is globally recognized for the strength of its polymer industry. The University of Akron's history of global polymer research and talent development, paired with the presence of major rubber, plastics, and advanced polymer manufacturing companies, makes Akron the brand and the place for the international polymer innovators to gain a foothold in the US and thrive. And finally, our strategy also emphasizes a vibrant downtown Akron as a key asset for attracting commerce and talent. Over the last 6 months, the Chamber has been actively supporting the Downtown Akron Partnership efforts led by Susie Graham and with the City of Akron to develop a renewed downtown strategy. The Chamber looks forward to getting our companies involved in the work ahead to realize a downtown that offers economic opportunity, safety to the people that live and work here, and a unique improvements that embrace the new hybrid workforce that will call Akron their home. So as the chair of the board, I continue to push Steve and our team to make specific progress on the things that impact businesses. I want to make sure that the voice of the business community is actively at the table on issues that matter to us. Wherever our perspective and support is needed, we want to be there to provide it. But as they say, our work is never done. And there are still some headwinds to face in the work ahead. But I hope that all of you agree that our investment in time and money are really moving us forward. And we couldn't do any of this without all of you, our volunteers, our members, our investors, and our stakeholders. Thank you for your active support, feedback, and participation. To our board of directors and my executive committee, thank you for your leadership and vision. And to Steve and the entire team at the Chamber, thank you for doing the heavy lifting and making sure that our businesses and our region have ample opportunity for economic prosperity. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Tia, for your leadership and support. I appreciate all you do to be available and engaged in our work. So as we look to the year ahead, the Chamber will continue to be a broad resource for support to our businesses and an active convener of the work that's being done with our Elevate Greater Akron partners on a variety of regional economic development initiatives. In addition, there's a handful of specific priorities that we're going to be investing significant time and leadership attention. As Tia said, workforce is a key priority for our businesses, so we're going to continue to work to bring together sector leaders in manufacturing, healthcare, IT, and polymers to address their mutual needs for in-demand talent. Our workforce efforts are going to have a particular focus, though, on work-based experiences for talent, from building career awareness for youth to student employment, internships, apprenticeships, and employee upskilling. Success here would allow us to retain more of our kids and young adults for our region's workforce needs and to upskill our current workers. And in Greater Akron, there's no bigger single source for emerging workers than the Akron Public Schools. The corporate community, facilitated and led by the United Way, has invested significantly in a national best practice for business engagement with K-12 education through the College and Career Academies model. With more than 300 business partners in that work, we'll be increasing the attention we pay to how we connect opportunities for experience-based learning and business community engagement to those students. In the year ahead, we're going to focus on securing private and public funding for the implementation of workforce, commercialization, and innovation initiatives that will accelerate the growth and success of Greater Akron's polymer industry. Over the last 2 years, we've established that Ohio should be making bigger investments in innovation throughout the state. And the governor's current budget proposal now includes $150 million to advance innovation hubs in places just like Akron. Our region is home to some of the world's strongest companies, scientists, innovators, and educators working on tough problems and big opportunities related to environmental sustainability and innovation for advanced materials. Investing in their success is a lever for creating jobs, investment, and growth. And we'll bring more than our fair share of those and other resources to Akron. With the completion of Akron's downtown plan in a few months, we'll work to develop corporate support for investment and involvement to build on the vibrancy of downtown Akron to attract business and talent. And as we distance ourselves from the disruption of the pandemic, we'll take a harder look at the right mix of resources, support, and services to assist the growth and success of our region's small and mid-sized business owners. Those companies are critical to our economy in our region, and we need to provide their support and growth, including a specific focus on the growth of our minority and women-owned businesses, increasing the number and size of procurement relationships with those businesses, and the technical support we can provide them to help them grow faster and contribute more to our economic success. Economic success for our region is strongly tied to collaborative, engaged, effective leadership among our private and public sector leaders. Whether it's Congress, the State House, our city, or our school boards, who leads matters. There's no doubt that the city of Akron is a critical economic anchor for our region, and we appreciate the collaboration we've had with Mayor Horgan and his team. It's a difficult role that will continue to require tough decisions that will significantly affect the future of our community. On behalf of the business community, we'll work in the year ahead to offer help and support with a smooth transition for the new administration in support of economic growth and prosperity for our community. So those are the areas of more intense focus for us this year. Workforce with a focus on internships and apprenticeships, and specifically the success of our largest school system. New investment in polymer industry success, a downtown development approach, and an updated approach to small and mid-sized business support and business community engagement and support for the transition for our next mayor. The success of these efforts relies on three fundamental components that must be present in every conversation, action, and plan: collaboration, inclusion, and leadership engagement. We'd like your involvement in any of this work that's of interest to you, whether you can provide an internship or work experience for a high school or college student, get engaged with our Polymer Industry Advisory Council, or bring your ideas to our refresh of our small and mid-sized business resources. We welcome your interest and your involvement. Your leadership and engagement are critical for our success, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of the entire region. As I indicated, our success is often driven by the active involvement of individual leaders focused on the collective needs of our business community. That work often goes unrecognized. Tonight, however, we have an opportunity to recognize one such leader for their work. Each year, we award an outstanding member of this community the H. Peter Berg Economic Development Leadership Award. Since the initial award in 2004 to H. Peter Berg, this honor has been given to business and community leaders who have demonstrated extraordinary leadership in economic development. Many of you had the opportunity to know and work with Pete. He had a passion for this region and a commitment to its growth and success that was underlined by extraordinary commitments from both First Energy, which he led, and his own personal time, attention, and resources. This award recognizes leaders that act with that same ethos of stewardship and responsibility to Greater Akron, and who exercise extraordinary leadership and commitment to driving the success of the people, companies, and institutions in our region. While unable to be here with us this evening, I wanted to publicly acknowledge Pete's wife, Eileen, his daughter, Amy, and the rest of their family. We appreciate their continued active support and leadership within our community, and we're honored to be able to recognize leaders in Pete's name each year. So I'd now like to introduce Joe Canfor, Venturer at Gojo, to kick off the recognition of this year's award winner. Joe was honored with the H. Peter Berg Economic Development Leadership Award in 2011 and is no stranger to many of you. He's an entrepreneur who's led the growth and success of Gojo, one of our region's largest companies, over more than 47 years, and has not only successfully led that business, but in the spirit of this award could also be relied on to go beyond his own business and be a driver, leader, and contributor back to important initiatives and institutions in our region. Joe's had a long relationship with tonight's award recipient, and we asked him to take a couple of minutes to share a thought or two in introduction to tonight's presentation. It's not a roast, though, right, Joe? Please welcome Joe Canfor.
Well, guys, is this not the most efficient meeting that you've ever been to? I mean, I'm amazed. If we have to bottle and sell efficiency. Hallie and Tia and Steve, you've done a great job. But really, it's just a terrific pleasure to be here with Rick tonight, to honor him, and particularly in Pete Berg's name, a giant in our community. Do we have this? I'm supposed to get a little picture up there. There he is. So some of you know Rick. Rumor has it that he actually came out of the womb in a coat and tie with every hair in place. And that's the Rick we know and love. There's also another picture of, that's the other Rick that we know and love. He still thinks he plays football for Hoban, and that's probably why he's so committed to the area. So, you know, he bleeds Akron and Hoban and Notre Dame and cigars and cars. We'll talk about some of those other things. But we're here tonight, Rick, to talk about what you've done for this community. First of all, on a personal level, Bober Marky Fedorovich has been our accountant since 1954. Rick took over in, I think, 1996, and has been an important advisor to me. But I know I've talked to many others of you here, and he's been an important advisor to you as well. And that's really contributed to the economics of our community. And you know one thing about Rick, he says what's on his mind, right? And he says it straight. And that's something you want in a good advisor, right? And he's done that for the businesses that he's supported, and he's done that for the many, many community organizations that he's supported. We're really here to talk about your body of work. And you heard Steve wanted to give me 2 minutes. Well, I'm going to tell you, if they gave me a list of things, and I knew many of these, but not all of them, that Rick has done, that alone, it would take 15 minutes. So I culled down the list, and I'm just going to read you a few things because you'll be as amazed as I. Here's some things that Rick has done. The Akron Community Foundation Finance Committee Chair, Akron Tomorrow Treasurer, Archbishop Hoban High School co-chair of their campaign, Business Volunteers Unlimited, Citizens for a Safe and Successful Summit County, the Treasurer, Cleveland Clinic Akron General, past chair, Ohio Small Business Advisory Council, I'm going fast because there's so many, Greater Akron Chamber, past chair and life trustee, Leadership Akron, past chair, Metropolitan Levy, Metro Parks Levy Campaign Committee, the University of Akron College of Business Administration, trustee, torchbearers, he was at the beginning. And then he's had a few awards like tonight, the Norman Cohn Hope Award, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, the Boy Scouts of America and Rotary Club Distinguished Service Award, United Way Distinguished Service Award, Justin T. Rogers Spirit of Hospice Award, the Pillar Award for Outstanding Community Service, the Public Service Award for Ohio Society of CPAs, the Frank L. Simonetti Distinguished Alumni Award of the University of Akron College of Business, United Way of Summit County Chairman's Award, University of Akron Distinguished Alumnus Award, Archbishop Hoban High Distinguished Alumnus Award, and it goes on, Steve. I mean, Rick, how do we know, and Rick, you had to give me more time now after we did that, right? It's just an amazing list. I'm sorry I read them so fast because each one of those, knowing Rick, was hours and hours of serious attention to the work that he was doing. And I know how much we appreciate that. You know, where do you find the time to do all of this? Where do you find the time? So I was talking with Lisa about what's Rick's day look like. Where were you at 4:30 this morning, guys? Everybody, I want you to think in this room, where were you this morning at 4:30? You know where Rick was? He was out running. Rain, snow, doesn't matter. Every other day, 4:30 in the morning, he starts his day. That's why I guess he finds the energy to do all of this, not only to take care of himself, but to take care of our community. You know, you can tell a lot about a guy, about the things he loves. So I need another slide now. Anybody know what that is? Anybody that knows Rick from the net, that is a 2004 Maybach. Okay, that is one of Rick's loves. Now, if you go visit Rick, be careful. Do not touch that car. Do not put a fingerprint on it. Okay, he will be out there on Saturday with his toothbrush cleaning every little bit of dirt from that car. All right, I'm not even sure I don't know, Lisa, does he let you ride in it? Maybe. Not drive it, though, I'm sure. You also have a couple of others, right? A Ferrari, 2011 Porsche, another Porsche, a Maserati. He loves to go fast, and he loves to go in style. That's one thing. You tell a lot about a person of the things he loves. There's another thing he loves. I need the next slide. Okay. You know who that is? That's Lisa, and that's Rick, right? He might love Hoban, he might love cigars, he might love his Maybach, he loves Lisa, and he loves this community. And that's really a tribute to a guy who is all around everything. So finally, just overwhelmed by everything that Rick does and loves, I asked Lisa, I said, when does this guy sleep? And she said to me, only when he's exhausted. And of course I said, well, tell me about that, Lisa. I didn't want to take that one too far. What made him exhausted, so I stopped that conversation there. But, okay guys, I tried that. But that's the Rick we know and love, a guy who is committed to every single thing we do and around our community and almost every organization in this community. It is my deep pleasure to introduce you. We're going to have a little film to honor you for being the Pete Berg Award winner, for really making a big difference, economic and social, in our community, Rick, it's just terrific, and I'm so proud to be here to introduce you. Let's give him a round of applause.
If I had to describe Rick in one word, it would be motivated.
Steadfast.
A doer.
Authentic.
When people ask me how I know Rick Fedorovich, I have to admit I start reflecting on some great memories. His parents, my parents, his mom, my mom, they worked together at Hoban. And Rick being a twin, that doubled fun.
Oh, he's about the same person now that he was then. Outspoken, aggressive, hardworking.
I was there the day that Rick Fedorovich walked into the door of Bober, Markey, and Fedorovich. And I knew that day, someday he would lead that firm.
I think Pete Berg would be very happy to see that Rick is being honored with an award that bears his name. I think that Rick exemplifies a lot of the values that Pete held dear to his heart. Pete was always a great leader and always caring about those people around him. And I think he would look down upon Rick and say, good on you. I'm glad you're getting this honor this year.
He really deserves this award because of his heart and his mind and his spirit. Just what a wonderful, giving human being. Really making sure through his time, his talent, and his treasure that everyone in our community has the resources that they need to flourish.
Throughout Rick's career, he has dedicated his time and talent to developing businesses and helping them grow, which turns into economic development, which turns into opportunity not only for businesses, but the residents, both locally and regionally.
What makes Rick deserving of this award is a commitment he has made to this community, but also to regionalism in northeastern Ohio.
When people say the word regionalism, everybody has a different definition of what that is. Early on, Rick gravitated to his idea of what regionalism was, to bring together people who can move our communities forward, to connect the dots between resources and people and a vision. And that is something that is a quality you can't quite identify, but you sure know it when you see it.
Another component of Rick Fedorovich's leadership style is he's not all about winning and losing. He's about collaboration, pulling people together, and through that collaboration, doing something we can never do on our own.
You know, Shakespeare said that the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And Rick really embodies that in everything that he does. You know, many people sort of spend their lives building their gifts for their own purposes. Rick has built on his gift and leveraged that to make sure that we all flourish and thrive.
Rick's desire to give back has been evident in all of my relationship with him from a very early part of his career. He was always looking for areas within the community that he could lead and make a contribution to. And I think if you look at his body of work over the course of years, he has done that with so many meaningful institutions such as the Greater Akron Chamber, Akron Community Foundation, Akron General, Hoban High School. He's just always looked for ways that he can give back.
Rick has been behind the scenes and a lot of times in front of the charge, leading the direction of where Akron's going to go and influencing people in Akron businesses. But Rick is grounded in Akron, and he's very loyal to Akron and the Akron area. His leadership is all over this community.
When I discuss Rick Fedorovich, you can't have a meaningful conversation about him and his contributions without talking about Archbishop Hoban High School.
He has done a lot, both philanthropic and in leadership role, to make a huge impact at Hoban. And the way that Hoban is today is a direct result of Rick's impact and leadership.
I believe that our city is great. And the reason our city is great is because of the people. People like Rick Fedorovich. They're people that care about others and never satisfied with the status quo.
Rick's extremely loyal. He's been a good friend. He's been a great business consultant. He's been a personal consultant. Rick is just a good, honest, hardworking person that wants to work with you and wants to see the best in every situation that you're in or that you encounter. And he's been a valuable asset to me, to Scala family and our business, and to this community.
On behalf of the Considine family, On behalf of really all our friends and colleagues, congratulations. This is richly deserved.
Rick, I just want to congratulate you on being the recipient of this year's Peterberg Award. As you know, I think you're very deserving of this award. Your body of work over the course of your career is exemplary. You've changed businesses, you've changed lives, and you've changed our community and our region by everything that you've done and the time and the effort that you've dedicated to making things better for all of us.
Rick, I am so very, very proud of you. You deserve this. It is an honor that you have earned and one that I know that you don't take for granted. I love you. God bless you and keep on giving back.
When you're in a community, you find people that are touchstones, that you know you can always go to, that you can pick up the phone and ask that question, even out of the blue. And Rick Fedorovich has always been that person for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2023 H. Peterberg Economic Development Leadership Award recipient, Rick Fedorovich.
Wow. If I was smart, I think I'd take that award and sit down and shut up. But that's not going to happen. A couple of things that I would say, you know, when there were 8 people that surprised me about a month and a half ago with the knowledge that I received this award, I think for 2 weeks afterwards I was still stunned, but clearly stunned early on. And I remember Steve, you know, talking about the new approach that was going to be used in the program for tonight and everything. And he said to me, at least I thought he said to me, he said, so now when it comes time for you, you got 45 minutes to talk. And I was like, hell, you know, I'm going to have to prepare a lot of comments. What I found out just today, though, he didn't mean 45, he said 425. The other comment that I would make is that this is probably the only time that I've ever heard Matt Collig talk on anything, including commercials, where he didn't end up with saying, "Make it a great day." So I have to, Matt and Lisa are next door neighbors, so I just have to give him that little plug. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's such an honor to be here this evening and to be the recipient of the H. Peterberg Award. It's been really wonderful to see so many friends, and I'm so appreciative that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to share this evening. Joe, a special thank you for being here for me this evening and for setting the stage for this great honor with your kind comments. We go back many years, and your impact on me has been a profound blessing, and I thank you. I would also like to thank those who took time to share their thoughts in the video presentation that we just saw. You have each had a special place in my journey as well. A few introductions, if I might. My wife, Lisa, right down front here, who has been a great support in all my efforts. For those of you that have known me for 30 whatever years in business, I always talk about my twin brother who lives in Florida. I don't think anybody ever believed that I have a twin brother. He is here tonight from Florida, my twin brother, Nick. And also my younger brother, Dennis, is likewise here from Florida. You kind of get that flavor, right? My brothers and my parents all moved to Florida 30 years ago, and I still stand here. I choose to think it was the weather, but maybe not. A few thank yous and recognition for people along the way that helped shape who I've become and have provided me a significant hand up. My late parents, John and Marge, who valued integrity and work ethic, along with the responsibility to give back and help those less fortunate. The outstanding educators and the education provided by Archbishop Hoban High School, as well as the University of Akron, specifically the College of Business. I had many mentors and friends along the way who took an interest in me. The list is long, and I could speak at length on each, but I would like simply to highlight a few special people that played a significant role in my development. First and foremost, Stanley Ambober, a partner, a friend, a mentor, and a father. Melvin D. Sachs, Justin Rogers, Tom Knoll, Joe Canfor, and Pete Berg. The partners and associates at BMF who have long supported my efforts. The past H. Peter Berg Award winners who were kind enough to recognize me. The Greater Akron Chamber for creation of this significant recognition and for sponsoring this wonderful event. The Berg family and the late Pete Berg. I was fortunate enough to have known Pete long before he rose to the level of CEO at First Energy. His leadership in all pursuits and at all levels remained stellar during his entire career, not just when he became CEO. He never changed, becoming more gracious, supportive, and giving as time passed and his success grew. I hope that I've stood within his shadow and paid appropriate respect to that legacy. Recognition with the H. Peter Berg Award considers the promotion of economic development, being a business leader in the community, and putting to work leadership skills in both community and economic initiatives. Those responsible for this recognition were kind enough to determine that my efforts along the way matched up to the criteria, and for that, I'm grateful. Tonight, I would like to spend a few minutes, just a few, Steve, and talk about the importance of what I believe to be necessary to accomplish what I and others have, and what I believe to be an extremely important need that exists now, and perhaps even more so in the future. That of sustained leadership in business, economic development, and in community. I think it's best captured in what I believe to be a two-part equation. First, the need for the younger generation to step up. Secondly, the responsibility for the senior generation to provide a hand up to facilitate succession and provide guidance and support. I see these as being shared responsibilities, and like many things in life, can't have one without the other. In business today, we see the impacts of age demographics on both leadership and ownership. I would argue that we see the same challenge within our communities and their supportive organizations. We clearly see that same dynamic around the board tables in community organizations. If we do not collaborate to ensure succession, those seats will shortly be empty, and all that we have endeavored to work together and create will be at severe risk. If we do not provide the guidance, support, and encouragement that I was so fortunate to have received, those new in the seats will not succeed, and our accomplishments will be at severe risk. A client of mine has a favorite saying: the graveyards of the world are full of indispensable people. As those graveyards are populated, we cannot allow the seats around the table to become empty, nor can we allow those who occupy them to do so without our support. This responsibility does not rest in any one place. It's a shared obligation of us all, those who lead now and those who aspire to. We need to collectively pay less lip service and see more engagement to best ensure that our past success will be sustained in the future. So now, if I'm addressing some of my comments to the younger generation, a fair question from you might be, why should I do so? Great question. There used to be a television commercial a number of years ago, Quaker Oats, I believe, where a young, stubborn-looking kid was trying to be fed breakfast by his mother, but to no avail. His name was Mikey, and Mikey hated everything. But then one day, his mother served him up some Quaker Oats and said, "Mikey, try it, you'll like it." And he did. As it relates to endeavoring to lead in business and economic development and in community, I would say to you all in the younger generation, try it. You'll like it. I can tell you unequivocally that the fabric of my life has been made immeasurably better by all of the opportunities that I've been provided, as well as the many great people that I've met and worked with. This has truly been priceless. And though I hope that I provided value in those initiatives, I've often felt that I received much more than I gave. All of this was possible for me because many people more accomplished and more senior gave me the opportunity, reached down to pull me up, and supported me along the way. That is the responsibility of the senior generation in this equation. None of it's easy. One of my favorite sayings, if it was easy, anybody could do it. All of it is necessary and critical to the long-term success of our region and to sustain the quality of life that we seek for our family and for our friends. This journey can be so rich by addressing these succession challenges while embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion, which will broaden the possibilities and most certainly enhance the outcome, creating a better result for us all. Many side benefits of immense value come with the journey. The development of relationships that last a lifetime and enrich your quality of life. The opportunity to lend a hand and give back. The ability to experience many different life pursuits that enhance your time on this earth. I will end my comments with this. Your future, as well as the future for all of us, will be made much better if you are part of those making it happen, rather than those standing on the side of the road that are wondering, what the hell just happened? I learned in my Leadership Akron and my Leadership Cleveland classes a number of years ago, wanted to do a little regionalism there, a short phrase, 3 words that says it all. Leaders show up. Leaders show up. Thank you all for coming this evening and sharing this special night with me and for indulging me and my comments. This community has been a great place to live and work, and I hope and wish that many future recipients of the H. Peter Berg Award will be standing here to recount their great appreciation and recognition of that same sentiment. Thank you.
Congratulations, Rick. Thanks for showing up for our community. Thanks for the work that you do, the leadership you provided, the mentorship you provide to people across the community and in your firm. We really appreciate you. Can I have another round of applause for Rick Fedorovich, please? So, as we talked earlier, workforce is a common critical challenge among employers in our region. While the nature of the specific challenge might be different by industry, size, location, the struggle is real. For our region to grow, we must have strong talent. But that's not enough. While a strong talent pipeline is core, we have to be able to develop, enrich, and retain workers once they set foot in our workplaces. Things like culture, well-being, and purpose are things that today's workforce is looking for, and something that we as leaders and managers must be acutely aware of as part of our workforce strategies. To share more about this, we have the honor of hosting tonight's keynote speaker, John Clifton, CEO of Gallup, and author of the best-selling book, The Blind Spot, The Global Rise of Unhappiness and How Leaders Missed It. We were drawn to John's book as a focal point for tonight's conversation because it's data-driven, authentic look into the role and impact of managers and leaders on the happiness and well-being of workers, all of which translates to impacts on retention, productivity, and the success of our businesses. As CEO of Gallup, the global analytics and advice firm, John's mission is to help organizations create thriving workplaces, put 1 billion people in touch with their strengths, and help 8 billion citizens be heard on their most pressing issues through the Gallup World Poll, a 100-year initiative spanning over 150 countries. Tonight, John will share with you the findings from their research and perspectives on what we should all be thinking about as managers and leaders to ensure our workplaces and workers are positioned for success. Please welcome John Clifton.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. It's really an honor to be here in Akron, and thank you for having an interest in Gallup's research. When Steve and I chatted, he did ask me to report on what Gallup is seeing that has us concerned in terms of our trends, but also what is it that we see that the best leaders are doing right now. And what is it that the best leaders are doing in terms of their strategies that are rooted in data? And so that is what I'm going to walk through. And there are really 3 points that I want to land on you this evening. And it's because it's in a response to these 3 things that I want to show you about the concerning trends. But one is that leaders right now are focused on developing managers, upskilling with respect to the behavioral side. Number 2, a deeper appreciation. I swear to you, I'm going to turn off half the room when I say this, but please don't stop listening, because I promise you I will at least convince 10% of those that I've turned off at this moment. But the next one is the importance of how people feel. And the last one is we need to be better communicators. And now I'll show you with data. Now, in terms of the biggest issues that we see right now facing the world, and I summarize this because Axios, which is a startup in Washington, D.C., they're a media startup, and they said that right now is panning out to be the toughest time to manage a business out of any time, even harder than 2020. But why? Why is it so hard to manage a business right now? Well, there are 3 reasons. The first one is this. Right now, economic growth is slowing. And it's been slowing not because of COVID. It's been slowing for 20 years in all rich countries. That makes it really hard to grow a business when there's no growth in any of the rich countries. The second piece is, this one deeply concerns me, is how customers feel about our work. For the longest time, customers really appreciated the products and services that businesses were offering them. But right now, it's declining dramatically. Customers are down on the products and services that businesses are offering. And by the way, if you look closely, don't blame it on COVID, because that trend started before COVID. And the third one is something that's very personal to me, only because this is what the book is about that we just launched, and it has to do with how people feel. Now, if you think about many of the indicators that leaders are obsessed with, if it is a community leader, a country leader, they're obsessed with GDP per capita, an indicator that we've had around now for almost 100 years. I think when Simon Kuznets in 1937 approached Congress and said we ought to have a metric that captures whether or not our economy is growing or whether or not it's contracting. We're also obsessed with indicators like unemployment, but what we don't have are indicators on how people feel and why. Isn't it amazing if you were to ask some of today's world leaders, Xi Jinping, Joe Biden, AMLO in Mexico, if you said to them, are the people in your country, are they getting sadder? Are they getting angrier? Do they feel better than they did 5 years ago? It's just like in that 1980 election when Ronald Reagan was debating in that, again, very famous moment. And a lot of people think it was kind of the moment that changed the election, but he said, ask yourself, is your life better off today than it was 4 years ago? But we don't have any metrics like that for the entire world, because how would you get them? Well, the way that you get them is you simply ask people. And it looks exactly like this. So we went out to 150 countries every single year, sat in people's homes, asked them in their language, how's your life going? You experiencing a lot of joy? Experiencing a lot of sadness? And what's remarkable is how candid people are and how open they are. People want to talk. For those of you that may not be practitioners in survey research, and they often tell you people tell the truth when you're talking to them, go into someone's house and ask them how they're doing. Because it's amazing, even in a workplace. I often joke with people, it feels like the things that are said in a workplace, I feel like they don't even say in their own homes. But it's the same is true here. If you ask people about their anger or their stress or their sadness, they'll tell you. This is another example in Mongolia. By the way, nobody can tell this anymore. That's actually me. Post-COVID, we go by weight. That was 20 pounds ago, no longer years. But we actually go in and do listening. By the way, we throw out this interview. If there's a white American in the room, we only use it for qualitative purposes. So now that we've been doing this for almost 20 years and asking people how they feel, we found a trend that really has us concerned. And it's what we call the global rise of unhappiness. Because when we ask people if they have debilitating stress, sadness, anger, physical pain, or worry, this is the trend that we see around the world. We see that the pain in the world is increasing systematically almost everywhere. And it has us very concerned. Now, when we launched this, by the way, it was interesting because we took it to the press and we said we're very concerned, and we launched it mid-2020. We said we've seen a record high in our database of negative emotions, and the press said back to us, well, gee, Gallup, why is that a surprise? Because we're all collectively suffering from a pandemic. Why would anyone be surprised that your negative emotions have reached a record high? And we said, but wait a minute, it's been increasing for 8 straight years, now 10. The pandemic didn't kick off a negative emotions crisis, it exacerbated one. So leaders today have 3 things, by the way, especially running a business: slowing growth, customers who are more challenging than ever on both sides, and then also an environment where people feel worse than they ever have been, ever before. So what to do? What to do as a leader? As I mentioned, 3 things, and I'm going to start with the first one, of which is the appreciation, the deeper appreciation for how people feel. And again, I know I probably just turned off half the room by saying that, because yes, if you've ever consumed the World Happiness Report, which is the happiest people in the world, that's actually Gallup that's behind that. A lot of time when I speak with groups and tell them this, they hear it and they're like, oh, that's something that's fun to consume, but I would never actually use it for my leadership. I would caution you against that, and here's why. This emerging discipline, many of you know, is behavioral economics, because how we feel is actually how we act. That's what behavioral economics is. Now, if you broaden it to just financial decisions or economic decisions, that how we feel causes how we act, it's a new discipline that 65 academics wrote a white paper about in 2021 and said this is the new emerging discipline of effectivism. Again, it's just the science of our emotions. And so why is it that they're so important? I want to show you 2 stories. The first one has to do with the Middle East. Now, about 15 years ago, one of the most significant geopolitical moments was the Arab Spring. In fact, President Obama went up to his director of national intelligence and he said to him, James Clapper, he said, why is it that we spend hundreds of billions of dollars on intel and no one could have told me that this was coming? Well, a few of the reasons is because from an intel perspective, one of the things that we do is we spy on other leaders. We use satellite imagery to watch everybody's movements from tanks to people. And then we use traditional economic indicators. But one thing we don't do is just understand the mood of the populations. Why is that a problem? Because if you use the traditional economic indicators that we are so used to, like GDP per capita, this is what happened in Egypt in the lead up to the Arab Spring. It grew in a perfect linear fashion. The country was getting richer. Not only was the country getting richer, but the United Nations puts out its Human Development Index, and every single year, the HDI showed progress. In Egypt, it showed progress in the country where it started, which was Tunisia. It even showed progress in the 35th richest country in the world, Bahrain. Everything we think about traditional economic indicators said things were getting better in those countries. But how did people feel? Well, this is what they told Gallup. The percent of people that were thriving, those that said that their life was a 7 or better today on a scale of 0 to 10, and an 8 or better in the next 5 years, a sign of hope, was systematically crashing. This exact same trend took place in Tunisia, of course, as I mentioned, the birthplace of the Arab Spring, and it was worse in Bahrain. Bahrain, 44% of people were thriving, and it collapsed all the way down to 11%, putting all 3 of them on par with the Palestinian territories. What traditional economic indicators told us was very different than how people felt. I'll show you another one just as we're on the topic of geopolitics, which is, you guys probably remember something that's significant that happened in this country in the past 10 years. Of course, what I'm referencing is Brexit, June 2016, I think was the original vote. It shocked everyone. The cover of the New York Times said Brexit shocked the world. President Cameron resigned the next morning. But what did traditional economic indicators look like? The quarter before Brexit, the economy grew 2%. And if you look at unemployment, it had dropped below 5% for the first time since the global economic crisis. In fact, many leaders believe, of course, that if you hit 5% of unemployment or go below it, that you've hit the natural rate of unemployment. And therefore, you've sort of maxed out in terms of what it looks like for a solid economy. Everything from an economic perspective said things were fine. But how did people feel? The drop that took place in the UK that you can see right there is one of the most significant two-year drops that we've ever seen in the history of our global database for any country. So when it comes to a money perspective, things look fine. But when it comes to how people feel, it looked totally different. Now, this concept of behavioral economics, the rise of effectivism, all really comes down to this. Gallup tried to capture what percent of the decisions that we make are based on rational thought, and what percent of the decisions that we make is based on emotional thought. And we did this actually using brain scans. We did it with customer behavior. So we went in to actually see when somebody makes a purchasing decision, did they do it based on the cost, or did they do it something emotionally driven? And this is what we came up with. We determined that roughly 70% of every decision that we make is emotional, and 30% is rational. And then I found a really cool quote by Yuval Noah Harari, where he says, even Nobel laureates in economics make only a tiny fraction of their decisions using pen, paper, and calculator. 99% of our decisions, including the most important life choices concerning spouses, careers, and whatever else that says, are made by the highly refined algorithms we call sensations, emotions, and desires. Leaders need to have a much deeper appreciation for humanity's emotions, because for too long, we have seen humans as automatons. When we hire them, we say, here's an assignment. You are a blank sheet of paper or a blank sheet. Do the task that were assigned to you. The reality is that all humans are very different. And without fully appreciating that emotional side, we can't fully appreciate what it is that they're going to do or how they're going to behave. So now that we have this fundamental understanding about behavioral economics, the rise of effectivism, what does it mean in your workplace? Because if you were to manage Egypt, the UK, surely you'd like to know how people felt. How do people feel today in your workplace? Every year, and now in every country, Gallup goes out and we ask people about what we call their engagement. And I don't really love the term engagement because Danny Kahneman had this, Nobel laureate Danny Kahneman was being interviewed by Adam Grant on his podcast. And Adam Grant said to him, Danny, don't you think we need to care more about a person's well-being than about their engagement? And Danny Kahneman, it was a really interesting interview. He lets out a gasp and he goes, he says, I guess that's your field, not mine. He said, but what I will say is I don't know that it is the company's responsibility to take care of somebody's entire life. But what I do know is what matters is that you take care of their well-being at work. And what does that mean exactly? What is well-being at work? We tried to quantify it. And the way that we did it as our sort of dependent variables, what are the things that we looked for? We did two things. One, money outcomes. What is it that actually causes people behaviorally to be more productive, to be more emotionally attached at work? And the other thing is, emotionally, what happens in terms of their positive emotions and their negative emotions? What puts people in a better emotional state from work? Because if you think about it, every single human being, there was a study done in Australia, guess how many hours we spend working in a lifetime? Have you ever thought about that? We spend 110,000 hours of our life working, which is the equivalent of 13 straight years of our life. The only thing we do more is sleep. I did the lower bound and found that it was something like 81 or 83,000, depending on certain various life expectancies. Even that puts you at nine straight years of working. But so how do people feel at work based on our indicators? This is what we've determined. we find, at least here in the United States, and you can call this engaged, you can call it thriving at work. I prefer thriving at work. We find that here in America, it's roughly a third. A third of the ones who get an emotional boost from work. They're the first ones in the morning, and they're the last ones to leave. They're the ones that say back to you, I can't wait to help you on the next project that it is that you're working on. But how about the rest of the workplace? They're the ones who have quietly quit or loudly quit. I wrote up there that why the world can't quit, quiet quitting, because The Guardian in December, maybe it was November, wrote an article that said, basically the annoying workplace trend of 2022 is officially dead. And the reality is it's not dead, and it wasn't born in 2022, because the very idea that you emotionally detach from work, whether it be because of a boss you don't like, because you feel burned out, is not a new concept, but we got a better phrase for it. It's a concept that's been around for millennia. But this is how our workplaces are doing right now in America. Now, the positive news is it's better than the rest of the world, because right now, the rest of the world, only 21% are emotionally attached to work. That means 80% of people aren't. Now, why is that an issue? First of all, in the United States, it's getting a little bit worse. I'm going to show exactly why I think this is taking place. But over the past 2 years since the pandemic, people are emotionally detaching. Now, you might say, John, that's only 4%. Sure. I said that to Danny Kahneman once. I said, oh, that looks like only 4%. He looked back at me and he goes, do you know how many millions of people 4% represent? That's a lot. That's a huge sociological shift that took place in the workplace. So, number one is this appreciation of emotions at a macro level and at a workplace level. But what can we do in order to improve it? And that comes up to the second piece, which is the management. And the reason I put this on here, dear shareholders, stakeholder, and customer capitalists, is because we at Gallup, when it comes to business philosophy, politics, we have an agnosticism to any of these things. And so to many stakeholder capitalists, they probably hear this and they say, great, this is the empowerment of the employee. I love every minute of it. And there might be a lot of shareholder capitalists that say, where do I fit into this conversation? And again, we have an agnosticism to this, except me personally, I'm a customer capitalist. But this works for any of them. And if you don't believe Gallup, then you can at least trust these individuals. I'll tell you the data first, which is the first one that if you manage the metrics that I'm about to show you and have a deeper appreciation for the manager, these are the benefits that you see within the workplace. And this is the benefit that can be seen mostly for shareholder capitalists, which is when you see the emotional boost from employees, you get higher customer loyalty, higher productivity, and higher profitability. Think about that. Actually creating a better environment for people at work adds to your profit. And the other thing is it makes all the bad things go away even more dramatically. Things like absenteeism, turnover, shrinkage is a big one. But the more that they can't stand where they work, the more they want to act out against you. And you can see it plainly in the data. And these are based on 2.5 million interviews that we've done and thousands of workplaces in which we've worked. And the last one is this is for the customer capitalists and the shareholder capitalists. For the stakeholder capitalists, if you get your techniques right in a workplace, this is the kind of emotional difference that you can have for people in the workplace. Right here, I listed sadness, anger, physical pain, stress, and worry. This is when we ask them, did you feel a lot of it all day yesterday? If you cut this by the people who are actively disengaged at work and those that are unemployed, I would argue this is one of Gallup's greatest findings of all time. The pain that you have in your body of being miserable at work is the same, if not worse, than someone who has no work whatsoever that wants work. Think about that. So the very idea of creating a better emotional environment within a workplace not only plays to shareholder capitalists, customer capitalists, but it also plays to stakeholder capitalists, because this is the difference that you see in a human being's life. And when we think about spending 110,000 hours of your life at work, this is a big emotional difference in the rest of your life. Now, the next question is, how do you do this? And up here I put it's the manager. So number one, the deep appreciation for emotions. And the number two piece is the importance of who you have as managers and the importance of upskilling managers to not just be deep technical experts in terms of what it is that they do, but also having the fundamentals of management down. Because 70% of the variance in terms of somebody's emotional attachment to work comes right from who you name manager. And just by training them a little bit takes them a long way. And if you feel like, gee, this is all Gallup says, it's not just Gallup. So there are two studies that I picked from. I think there are actually hundreds. But one said they looked at, again, not us, this is from the London School of Economics. They looked at 35,000 manufacturing plants, and they found that improved management techniques explain the greatest difference in performance, even ahead of R&D, employee skills, and IT spending. The other one, that was one in Italy, the Atlantic found this one, but they found exactly the same thing. Just better management practices made improvements of 45%. Again, this is throughout thousands of organizations. So how? What is the upskilling that can be done? If there's one thing that you take away from this, I would say screenshot this or whatever. Because we work with, I don't know how closely all of you followed, I'm sure a lot, it was all over the news, but the fires in Australia that took place a few years ago. Well, one of the organizations that fought those fires was Fire and Rescue of New South Wales. Anyway, this image that I'm about to show you, he carries with him everywhere. He literally copy and pasted it and put it in the front of his notebook because he felt like the single way to make people emotionally attached at Fire and Rescue of New South Wales that fought a mega fire in the past 2 years was this. These are what we call the 12 elements of great management. These aspects of management are so fundamental, and what surprises me is how few actually implement them. I'm going to give you an example. The very first question just says, I know it's expected of me at work. Now, for many executives, they read that and they're like, come on, that's in their pay plan. When I hired them, I articulated that. Well, if it's working so well, then why is it that when we pose that to workers all over the country and all over the world, quite frankly, we find that half of them cannot strongly agree that they know exactly what it is that they're supposed to do at their jobs? Think what we could do for human productivity if we just fixed that. If managers just sat their teams down and said, let's talk about what exactly we need you to do in terms of your contribution here at work. The second one, do you have the things you need in order to do your job effectively? Now, a lot of times when this is presented to executives, they see it and they get a little uneasy about it and they go, come on, I feel like our colleagues are going to talk to us about adding a volleyball court, and that doesn't really help us in terms of delivering our products and services to our clients. Why does this keep coming up? I'll tell you two things about it. Number one, usually what it is that they need isn't very complicated or expensive. We worked with a manufacturing firm. We went on the floor. Nobody felt like they had what they needed, and we asked them, what is it that you need to do your job effectively? They said back to us, gloves that fit. You're already spending the money on the gloves. Just get them that fit. But that's a part of listening. And here's the other one, that stress item that I showed you. Of all of these that correlate the most with stress, the one that correlates the most, that drives people most nuts in a workplace, is that number 2 item, having the things they need to do their job effectively. You know, it's amazing because a lot of times leaders who really, really care, and they actually sincerely want to create initiatives for their colleagues that advance their well-being, they'll introduce new yoga programs and, you know, roll out a whole bunch of yoga mats. The problem is if you've got a colleague that has something that they really need and they see yoga mats they got invested in, you've made them more insane. Because they said, why did you invest in that when all I need are gloves that fit? And this is a big part of listening. And if leaders everywhere could do this, by the way, the number to that globally is 40% say that they strongly agree that they have what they need. Imagine if we could fix that, how much it would bring down global stress because of how much people experience. And the last one, which I think is a silver bullet to creating a great workplace, and quite honestly, a solution, I think, for many social ills in the world, is people having the opportunity to do what they do best. I think there's that often quoted line by Aristotle where he says that your purpose in the world is the nexus between what the world needs and what you're good at. What he doesn't say actually is what you like to do, because a lot of times what we like to do, I'd really like to play in the NBA, but I guarantee the Cavs won't take me. But the realization is that a lot of times managers need to help people find that nexus between what it is that they're so good at and also what the world needs. But again, this is the list of 12 things, from things like recognition, and the other one, the most controversial thing that apparently Gallup has ever asked in our 80-year history, is do you have a best friend at work? This has been confirmed by international research. If you want to create low turnover, create friends at work. People will literally not take another job that has a pay increase because they never want to leave their friends. And this is true all over the planet. I just have one last thing that I want to share. So number one, caring more about how people feel, because how they feel is how they act. And number two, helping our managers upskill from this emotional perspective. And number three is around communication, because we see something very surprising in our data. We're not 100% sure about it, and I promise you this will be a bit controversial for those of you that are passionate about returning to work, hybrid, and also remote working, which has to do with what I call the hybrid work paradox. Because now there are time use studies on hybrid work. And for those that work from home, it's amazing because they find so many benefits for their overall life. In fact, here's the list. I actually went through and found all the benefits through all the white papers. This is them, from time use studies and everything. You sleep more, you have more leisure time, you socialize more, you work out more, you eat out more. It literally boosts fertility rates. And it decreases sick days. It's like everything about life gets better when you have the option to, when you're spending a few days working from home. And by the way, one of the single biggest reasons what makes people so miserable about work is the commute. They can't stand the commute, especially for high achievers when they feel like they can't do two things at once. So this is it. And actually somebody quantified and said that it's so awesome that it's the equivalent of an 8% increase in pay. So why am I calling it a paradox? Now, as I mentioned, so much of our life is work. And when Gallup did a massive study around the world to find out what is it that makes a great life, we found that communities make a great life, your social well-being. We found that financial well-being is huge, physical well-being. But one of the biggest contributors, if not the single biggest one, is your work well-being. So how has hybrid work impacted your work well-being? This is where the paradox presents itself. Because while hybrid work has been so beneficial to every aspect of our life, it would appear that it's making our work lives worse. Why? The reason is because when managers who are not well equipped in order to be great managers from this human element, it exacerbates the very poor management that they already exhibit. And the single reason why has to do with communication. It's just that simple. Microsoft did a study because they wanted to know one thing. When we're in virtual environments, you know what we do more? We communicate asynchronously. We text, we Teams, we email. That clear. But you know what we did? We got really sloppy in our communications. We can actually find that when you have teams that are trying to communicate complex things over the written word, they're terrible. They not only understand each other less, they get frustrated with each other. And this is presenting itself in a very pronounced way because of the pandemic and hybrid work. And the last thing I'll say is that many of you might be familiar with Gallup's Clifton Strengths or StrengthsFinder assessment that we are really proud of. Father of the internet, Vince Cerf, went through it, and he has communication, number 3. It's amazing. It's almost too perfect that he would have communication in his top 5 strengths. And so we asked him, we said, Vin, one of the challenges that we have right now is that leaders are struggling to communicate because they're doing so asynchronously. What should they do? You're a brilliant communicator. And he said back to him, 200 years ago when we had to communicate with the other side of the planet, we had one shot. You had to write a letter, and you knew it was going to be on a ship, and somebody was going to read it 2 weeks later, and the care that you took in the letter that you wrote was remarkable. He said, but today, now that we're all laying on our couches and using 2 thumbs to pen out the same type of content, he said we got lazy and we got sloppy. Sometimes Siri is correcting us in a way that we didn't even intend to. I had it happen personally. It's horrifying. But the reality is that we're frustrating each other more. And because work is such a big aspect of our lives, it's causing us this much frustration where you see massive declines in every aspect of our emotional attachment at work, especially the key elements of communication. Things like mission and purpose, whether or not you have the opportunity to learn and grow, and whether or not your opinions count. So if we as leaders can improve our communication, if we are indeed going to continue with hybrid work, or especially remote work, that we have to be better communicators if we are going to operate in asynchronous environments. Because if we're not, we're going to make each other a lot more miserable than what's already happening with the world. Now, that said, the leaders that we've seen that have implemented all of these, where they've upskilled their managers to focus on the emotional engagement, had a deep appreciation of one's emotions, and improved on their communication skills when they're doing it at scale, this is what we found. Today, as I mentioned here, that's the world's numbers. But the best organizations that we work with in the world, this is what their numbers look like. They find that 70% of the people within their workplace are thriving. In fact, we have some organizations that we work with where 90% are. Remember, the opposite of what this looks like is where there's not only misery with the people that work within the organization, this fallacy that if your boss can't email you after 5, that it somehow makes the human beings can't compartmentalize. This idea that we have somehow mastered compartmentalization is not true. And the reality is that we even take it to our loved ones. We found, I think it was 60% take the stress and misery when they're really upset to their loved ones. But this kind of workplace is possible. And when this workplace is possible, it decreases negative emotions and it actually increases positive emotions. It actually creates environments where people say they have fun. And so if we're going to have the leaders that take us into a very complicated world, a complicated world where technology is disrupting us what feels like every other day, where we hear new terms like the metaverse, ChatGPT-4, which just came out yesterday, the only way through it will be through managers who do those 3 things and take us into the 70%. Steve, thank you again for having me here. I just want to say one last thing. As I mentioned, there are 5 things that make a great life, and one of them is community well-being. I've had the honor to be able to speak to a number of communities, but it's rare when you see a group of leaders that comes out like this that cares so much about creating a great community like here in Akron. So congratulations and thank you for being the leaders that do that. Thank you again for having me. Thank you.
There you go. John, on behalf of the Greater Akron Chamber and our business community, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for sharing some of that data. We gave you a little bit of Akron to take home with you since you like us so much. So we appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks again. So, you know, we thought it was important for you all to hear some of that information because you play such a big role in sort of driving the workplaces, driving our community, and really setting an environment for opportunity. And so one of the things that we knew you might be asking is sort of what's next? How do I do something with this to take it forward? Certainly you can visit Gallup's website. They've got a lot of information there, et cetera. But one of the things that we've done is we've created a partnership with Heart to Heart Leadership. We've been working alongside Jeremy Lyle, Executive Director of Heart to Heart, and his team on an exclusive curriculum designed with that material in mind. So this year we're going to be launching a curriculum titled Unlocking Workplace Wellbeing, Practical Strategies for Managers That Can Make a Difference. The goal of the sessions is to provide a customized set of resources and training that's going to help your managers and leaders when it comes to motivating, leading, and maximizing the experience of their workers. You saw the link to the data to that experience and the opportunities in your company, and so we want to help you make that. So these sessions are designed to be done in small groups to maximize the experience, so we're going to do them in sort of limited sizes as we go forward here. I know that you or somebody on your team could benefit. There's cards on your table with additional information, including a link to registration for that, and we'll see how these go, and we will expand the sessions as we need to. But your talent is so important, your teams are so important to driving what we need to do in the region. We really want to give you an opportunity to take advantage of some of this information and taking it to the next level. So thanks, Jeremy, to you and your team at Heart to Heart for working with us on this new endeavor. So as we wrap up this evening, I want to thank you again for your investment and engagement in the Chamber and our region. I'm optimistic about the work that we have ahead and the impact that all of you are making on our community. I look forward to working alongside each of you as we continue to work to strengthen the vibrancy and the opportunity in our region. We'll look forward to connecting with lots of you on this work as we go forward. I appreciate you very much. Thank you, and have a great evening.